Chris, welcome. Thank you for joining the editorial board. Why don't you tell us about yourself, the office you're running for, and a little bit about your background, and we'll start asking questions after that.
Okay, great. Thanks, Phil. Thanks for having me down. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm running for Lee County Commissioner, District 1, and I'm running because I believe that we need to have a conservative voice on our county commission. I'm a firm believer in the principles of lower taxes, less spending, and smaller government. I believe that we have to focus on reducing government spending, we have to focus on helping businesses to create jobs, and we have to continue to protect the people of Lee County. So those are the main reasons I'm running. I don't believe we can continue to do business as usual. We can't continue to elect politicians who represent business as usual. Nor can we elect lone wolf politicians who aren't able to work together and get results. Mm-hmm. So as commissioner, I'll work together with the other members to reduce the budget. I think we need to look at all different areas. We have to look at contract negotiations, renegotiations. We have to look at eliminating duplicative services and waste. We have to look at consolidation of services, privatization of services. Those are the main focuses, and there of course are others. As far as putting people back to work, I mean, that's such an important element, and the way to do it is to keep taxes low, to get businesses to want to come to this area. We have to work with the small businesses that are here to make it easier for them to expand, reduce the burden of government in the process of permitting and approval. We have to make that process easier. We have to allow businesses to do what they do best, and that's create jobs and work. So those are the main areas. I think we do a great job of keeping the people of Lee County safe. We, despite a terrible economy, many vacant homes, we've managed to get crime down even with those conditions, and I applaud Sheriff Scott and Lee County Sheriff's Department for the work they've done. Also proud to have been endorsed by Sheriff Scott, and as recently as yesterday was endorsed by the Cape Coral Police Department as well. Again, we just can't continue to do business as usual, and I'm running because I represent a change from that.
Chris, have you ever run for public office before?
I have. I served 1 year on the Cape Coral City Council. Okay. I was appointed to the position to replace a council member that was removed by the governor. It was the only year, the first year in the history of the city of Cape Coral that we ever reduced a budget in real dollars. So I'm very proud of that. I'm the only candidate in this race that can say that.
Did you seek election to that?
I did seek re-election, yes.
Okay. And failed?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I was,
what year was that?
That was 2007.
Lost, I should say.
Yeah. I ran against a very...
2007?
2007. You know, people were just beginning at that point to have an anti-incumbent sentiment, and the city of Cape Coral for years had overspent.
But you applied or were nominated for the Cape Coral City Council job? How did that work?
That was a little different than the appointment process went for commissioner. The process for city council is that the current council members that are seated appoint the replacement.
And now you, for a living, you sell real estate, right?
Yes.
And that's with the firm called?
That's with Myloff Aubuchon Realty.
Okay, and Aubuchon is the same Aubuchon who serves in the State House of Representatives?
Yes, Gary Aubuchon.
Okay. When you mentioned that today's economic and political realities call for we can't elect candidates who are business as usual,
right? And
we can't elect candidates who are a lone wolf candidate,
right?
Who can't work with others to get results. What were you talking about? Or who were you talking about?
Well, it's real simple. In this race, we have the person who is now the current commissioner has just been appointed, who has served for 18 years in government, and I think it's time for us to move past that. We have to leave the politics of the past in the past and do things differently.
Oh, so, I thought you were talking about Bob Chilmonic.
No, that actually, when I refer to the lone wolf candidate, that's when I'm talking about Mr. Chilmonic.
Oh, you were?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
those
So
are
I
two
had that one
different.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the
Yeah.
business as usual guy is
That
John
that we're
Manning.
talking about, Mr. Manning, and
Okay.
the lone wolf, Mr. Chilmonic. Yeah, I
Okay.
think in 8 years on the school board, you have to have some results. You have to be able to get things done and work with
Yeah.
the other members.
He would show you a long list of things and say it was just things that people didn't want to hear.
Right, right. But in 8 years, I think you have to, at some point, be able to build consensus. That's part of the job.
Okay.
You seem to believe that Lee County Commission is lacking of the sort of conservative, fiscal conservative that you're talking
Yes.
about. How do you build how do you build coalitions then on a commission that's lacking folks that agree with you?
Well, you have to do a couple of things. You have to, first of all, be prepared when you step up to the dais and be ready with facts and figures, and you have to work with city staff or county staff to make the changes happen. It's when you can show the other commissioners that there is a way to make the changes without a huge negative impact on the county, then I think we can build consensus. But being prepared is one of the keys. I think from what I've watched, commissioners that are prepared when they are up there are listened to, and there is respect for each other among the commissioners in that setting.
Are there a few hobby horses that you would look at now for reining in spending on?
Well, I'm not sure hobby horse, but
That's a good one.
we've got to look at all different areas. We've got to look at privatization in some cases or outsourcing. There are some cities. There's a city in California. The actual city escapes me right now that has outsourced their entire city government, and they've had a huge, like 40% huge savings in what they are doing. Many communities have outsourced their community development, their DCD departments, human resources. There's a whole multitude of ways to do it. We just have to look at whether each of those departments, whether it makes sense for us to do it that way, if there is going to be a savings. And you can only do that by bidding it out, comparing, making government compete for the jobs, just like a private business would do.
It appears that Lee County government right now is not by outsourcing, but is looking at staff reduction.
Yeah.
And going through and calling here and there. Is that sort of ironic, Bill, on you say what we have to do is create jobs, and here the county's cutting back and putting people out of work?
Well, we have to, private sector has to create jobs.
Okay.
Governments don't do that very well. It's by nature, they're inefficient, and they're just not that's not the role of government, in my opinion. And private sector, by reducing the tax burden and bringing in other national and international companies, Collier has done a great job with Jackson Labs, bringing them in. Those are the kind of things that create jobs, not governments.
The
But how would
Jackson
they
Labs
say
folks.
about outsourcing government functions? Would that be taking jobs outside the county?
No, it wouldn't be taking them outside the county. I mean, we'd be looking at private enterprises to be in Lee County and do those functions.
You mentioned Jackson Labs. That would theoretically bring a lot of private jobs to Collier County, but it's a pretty hefty investment of the county up front.
Yes.
$130 million in this case.
Right.
Would you be in favor of that kind of direct economic benefits to the right kind of businesses coming to Lee County?
For the right kind of businesses that have a long-term benefit to the people of Lee County, yes, because in this business climate, companies can relocate anywhere, and beaches and sun are not going to make the difference for a company to come somewhere. There has to be financial incentives to get that to happen. So it's a necessary evil in doing business in today's economy.
Oh, to follow up on that, Lee County Commissioners put up $25 million pool,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Right.
In the big advertising campaign.
Right.
25 million reasons to locate here or something like that.
Right.
Now, there are some business sectors who want the commissioners to put up $25 million a year. Is that a good idea?
Well, I don't know that we should be putting up a specific pool of money each year without looking at A, is it effective, and B, is there a better way to do it? Just putting that money in there and then figuring out how to use it doesn't work. I
Okay.
mean, there has to be specific needs in order to warrant having that kind of
So if
investment.
you put the money in there,
Yeah, we don't want it to become another government project where the money goes in and nope, we got to spend it, so we get it next year too. We can't do that.
Okay.
Has baseball been a good investment for Lee County government?
I don't think the third stadium is necessarily a good investment for Lee County. I think that it's there now, and we have to support it, and I'll definitely support what we've done. You can't change the facts that it's there. I think we have to, more than anything else, fill the stadium that's in downtown Fort Myers, the
Any
old
idea?
Red Sox stadium. We've got to make something happen there.
Any ideas?
Well, we need to recruit another team to come down and fill that stadium.
Any ideas beyond another team, which might not happen?
Yeah, well, it's tough right now. We'd have to. I personally would be in favor of letting private businesses kind of compete and see what we can do there.
Like
Do
put
a
out
public-private partnership.
or
with
put out a
that
request for
facility.
proposals.
Yes. Exactly.
How about FGCU football? Hey, there's an idea.
You know, that's something that could work. It's something that would have to be talked about with FGCU, but I'm open to any ideas that can put that to use and save us some investment other places.
I was just going to ask if there was one deciding event in the life of the county commission in the last several years that made you say, I'm going after this.
Well, it wasn't one deciding event. I think it's just watching what's occurred over time and watching the spending just increase and increase and increase, and we just can't do that anymore. The economy's not what it was in 2005 when we had all kinds of money flowing in. We should have never spent it in the first place. There were some things we had to spend on. We had to improve infrastructure and do a little catch up, but we don't need to continue to do it year after year after year. We have to put that money back in the pockets of our residents because they need it.
Well, with the drop in property values, though, isn't that sort of self-correcting right now?
Well, we hope it's self-correcting, but it doesn't seem to affect the commission right now that way. I mean, we're seeing the millage rate go up and that's, or stay the same, go to the rollback rate, which is actually an 18% increase
Right.
this year.
Okay.
It's not a rollback.
Right.
And we just can't keep doing that. That money's got to go back to the residents. I mean, the only reason that someone's taxes might be a little lower this year is because their house might have lost $200,000 or $300,000 in value, and that's really not a win for our residents.
Let me follow up on that. You're in real estate.
Yes.
An 18% millage rate, let's call it for conversation.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that's the exact number, but it's close.
Between 14 and 18.
Okay, that's a pretty good swing. Now, if you're a homestead under Save Our Homes,
Mhm.
your taxable value is not going to go down.
That's right.
It's going to go up.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So that's not a tax cut at all.
That's-
Your taxes are going to go up.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And that's exactly
Some of the
what
commissioners
we-
don't seem to get that.
Yeah, and that's something I just don't understand, that somebody cannot get that. That's so important. I just met a woman yesterday in Cape Coral as I was out knocking on doors and meeting our residents that told me my house went down by a third in its value and my taxes went up.
That's
we
how.
can't do that anymore.
You're the first candidate, by the way, who said, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
it absolutely is right. I mean, I deal with it every day.
Okay, thank you.
You mentioned in reducing expenses, one thing was renegotiating contracts as one way to cut into the operating, general operating costs. Can you have some examples of contracts that are out there that a good county manager would go and renegotiate?
Well, I can give you a concrete example of where it's been done, and that's
Okay.
in Steve Russell's office, the state attorney's
Yep.
office. They have done just that. They've renegotiated their contracts and have saved I believe it was, they've been able to reduce their overall budget by, I believe it was 5% solely because of that.
Are these employee contracts or are these vendor
Vendor
contracts? Vendor
contracts.
contracts, okay.
So we've done it already. So it's something that the county as a whole can certainly do if Steve can do that in his department.
They're looking now at cutting back employees,
Mhm.
and you know, you get into the general fund costs, and it's usually expenses, personnel,
Yes.
and materials, which goes into the contracts. Are you confident they haven't renegotiated the contracts yet? Or
I
got
know
some
they.
examples?
Yeah, they've. There have been some attempts at some contracts, but
Mhm.
certainly not in a broad scope like it needs to be done.
How about privatization? Any examples on they ought to look at privatizing this service or that service?
Yeah, as I mentioned, you know, we have to look at DCD or community development departments. That's something that's privatized in many communities throughout the country. Fleet maintenance services are privatized in many areas throughout the country. HR functions are privatized in a lot of areas. So, I mean, those are just three real quick examples, but I don't think any department should be immune from at least being looked at.
Okay.
About the jail.
The jail's another option. And again, that's something that's done in other places, and that's a huge expense for our county.
Do you have any thoughts on southern Lee County, the Bonita Springs, Estero, San Carlos area, in terms of how to build and maintain good relations? Because your elections are countywide.
Right,
Okay.
right. Build relations, you know, you do that by listening to the people. And I think that the Bonita Estero area is, I'm very impressed with what's been done in terms of development in this area. It's been done with a common sense approach. The citizen groups that have organized and have worked together to get those things done have done a great job. You know, working together is something that has to be done at all levels, and you know, you have to listen to the people and work with them to get them what they want.
Do you have any thoughts on sort of a movement, let's call it a discussion, on Estero cityhood and the so-called 2-mile buffer between Estero and Bonita? That can get pretty complex, but to somebody in real estate, you could probably see it pretty clearly.
Sure. You know, I think there's probably a common sense solution as to how to draw those boundaries. I don't believe the fire district area was the right way, and I can understand why the commissioners did not vote to move it forward. The community didn't want it to go forward, most of the community. So there's a common sense way, and I think Estero will work with us and tell us when they think the time is right to become a city, if they believe they should become a city.
Do you have any contacts, or is there anybody in the Estero, Bonita, San Carlos area that you listen to actively? Are you already connected?
I'm not. I'm not an insider in any way. I do have some connections with some of the local real estate boards and know some people that are a part of the realtor community.
Okay, that counts.
I've been to some Chamber of Commerce events and met some people down here in Bonita, and have begun to make some good contacts there as well. So there's a lot of good people, and we have to listen to
Yeah,
them.
a lot of good Estero civic people too.
Yes, yes.
They're
Met
really
with
good.
the Estero Civic Board,
Yeah, those are the guys.
and they had some very good questions for us, and look forward to working with them.
Okay, good, thank you.
Growth seems to have abated or has abated in
Yes.
Lee County. Is the project that's on the drawing board being talked about to widen, I believe it's Colonial through the city, is that going to be necessary still? It seemed like it caused a lot of disruption.
Talking about the
Yeah,
double deck,
Yeah.
I don't see that happening, and I'm really not disappointed that it's not happening.
You talked on your platform, cutting taxes, cutting spending,
Right.
encouraging business to come in, creating
Right.
jobs. So
Right.
one thing that we're hearing from some of the other candidates on their platform right after all of that is the environment.
Mhm.
Any thoughts on conservation, the environment in general, and as it pertains to the campaign?
Oh, yeah, of course. We have to the environment is one of the features of our area. Our waterways, our beaches. I mean, those are the qualities that attract people to relocate here. Retirees or families. Everyone loves the beach and the water, and we have to make sure that it stays pristine. Okeechobee water releases is an area where we've got to work together with our other levels of government and the private sector around Okeechobee to stop
How about
those.
county land buying programs to take land out of the private sector for conservation purposes?
It's a role that we've done well as a county,
Mhm.
and we need to continue to do that. It's so important that we protect natural Florida, and Conservation 2020
How does that
does a good
figure into
job.
the lowering taxes and cutting spending then?
There's all different areas we can look at in terms of cutting spending and reducing taxes.
Mhm.
Not every program is a bad program in government, but we have far too many of them.
Would this be the time to suspend such programs, such as land buying,
There's
until
been-
things improve?
There's been some talk, actually it was Charlie Green that proposed this.
And the commission said,
yeah,
the current commission said no.
The commission didn't really give it much
Yeah.
of a listen, but I think we have to look at that. But that's really just a Band-Aid approach, and I'm really not in favor of that. It's kind of like using reserves, but that's a Band-Aid approach. The root of the problem is that the government is too large, and it's going to be some painful decisions, but we have to focus on core services and eliminate some of the other stuff we do. I mean, there's so many well-intentioned programs, but is it really the role of our government to make those happen?
How about impact fees? Do you put those in the category of taxes, or is that?
They are, because they eventually get passed on to the homeowner or the business that's building, which then gets passed on to the customer. So it's another fee that you as a citizen of the county, you have to pay. I mean, we talk about
But in theory, it's supposed to build the infrastructure so
Right.
you
right.
can operate smoothly as a community.
And they're a necessary part of government. Impact fees it's not something we should do away with. We're not collecting very many of them right now, that's
yeah.
for sure. But it's still another fee that you pay as a taxpayer indirectly.
What do you see for the future of fire consolidation?
I see it as probably something that's going to happen, and that's a good thing. Too many layers of government right now, too many different districts that oftentimes seem to be competing to have the biggest and best of equipment and facilities, and we certainly want the best for our firefighters so that they can do their job safely, but there are ways to do that by sharing equipment, by sharing resources. We don't need all the different districts that we have.
Okay, who would run this consolidated fire effort that you see?
Well, we have fire district leaders now,
Yes.
and we would have them consolidated, and one of those people that currently runs a district could certainly run a consolidated district. So
Okay, so we'd let each area elect a fire commissioner?
just as we do now, yeah, only there'd
So
be
they-
less of them, that's all.
Okay, so in Estero and Bonita and San Carlos and et cetera, instead of electing 3 or 5, they'd elect 1.
Right. And if you've looked at the salaries of those individuals, that's a significant savings right off the top.
I've also looked at some of the pay of the firefighters,
Mm-hmm.
and how would we assure citizens that consolidation really would lead to efficiency? It just might lead to the same old stuff, just repackaged.
Well, by consolidating, we're eliminating layers of bureaucracy, we're eliminating buildings, we're eliminating
In theory.
facilities. In theory.
Okay.
So, there's going to be a savings, in theory, by doing all that. I don't see how we can't have a savings if we eliminate. If we take
Okay.
4 districts and put them down to 1, we're going to have a savings.
But if one district has higher paid firefighters than the other districts,
Mhm.
you'd have a hard time seeing those firefighters agree to a pay cut. Would it be more likely that everybody in the other districts would want to be brought up to that level of pay?
It probably would be. That's something that the unions would have to negotiate out.
You mentioned your endorsement by the sheriff and
Yes.
Police.
The Cape Coral Police Union.
Cape Coral Police. Who else who's helping you with your campaign?
There's a lot of
Who's your brain trust? Who's out there?
Well, there's a lot of just private business people that and private citizens that are tired of paying high taxes. They want to see a change. I'm proud to have some support from, as an example, Marine Concepts. It's a company in Cape Coral that has been in business for several years there. They do a great job of building forms for boats and molds, and they've managed to retool themselves through the recession and stay in solid shape, and that's one business that is very supportive, and they're actually hosting an event for me July 28th, if anyone would like to come.
Are you out knocking on doors?
Out knocking on doors every day. It's important to the campaign, not just from a standpoint of getting the vote, but you learn so much by talking to the people that you knock
They
on the
want
doors.
lower
of.
taxes.
Everyone wants lower taxes.
What else? What else you hear?
Jobs and taxes. Jobs and taxes are what I hear every
Okay.
time, and those are the issues.
Are you from Cape Coral originally?
No, I've been in Cape Coral 10 years.
Okay.
And I'm originally from New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I left New Jersey, went to college in Dayton, Ohio, University of Dayton, and lived out in Dayton for 8 years before
Dayton
coming
Flyers.
to Florida. Dayton Flyers.
Yeah, okay.
What part
And
of
NIT champs this year.
What part of New Jersey?
Springfield, which is North Jersey, near Newark and Elizabeth, New York City area.
You lost the accent.
Everybody tells me that.
Really?
Occasionally it comes back.
It must be South Jersey.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. What did we learn from the Don Stillwell experience?
You're talking about the actual end of Mr. Stillwell's term, or just
Well,
his
Actually,
experience
that's
as a
why
county manager?
That's why I was sort of framing it to see how you would care to fill in the picture.
I think that what we've learned is what we are learning in a lot of governments right now, and that's you can't continue to build empires. You have to focus on core services and shrink government. And now we have a very painful job because we let governments grow unchecked for so long.
Even though core services were one of was Don Stillwell's mantra.
Right, but it certainly expanded beyond that,
Okay.
and we have to shrink it back to where it should be.
Looking back, was there a time in the recent past, you've been here 10 years, when Lee County was at that core service level? Or does the growth go beyond that?
It probably started beyond that. It really got out of control with the boom of 2003, 4, 5, 6. Those are the years where we just it was so easy for politicians to say, we've reduced your millage rate. Well, of course, because property values went up 50%. It's easy to reduce millage by 2%. So that's still growth in government and growth in taxes, and you know, our residents weren't as concerned because everything was good. Their property values were going up and
Money
through
was
the
free.
roof, and no worries. And that's not the world we live in now.
And the national map always has a red dot in Lee and Collier as well for foreclosures. The foreclosure
Yeah, I
rates
mean,
and stuff.
I'll tell you, as a realtor, I deal with it every
I'll
day.
bet. Is there anything government should or can do other than lower taxes?
Yeah, I think we've got to do
But
just
any
that.
type of programs, because the rates are so high in this part of Florida.
You know, I don't think there's a county program
Okay.
that fits that picture.
What question that's important have we overlooked? You're sitting there going, ha ha, they forgot to ask about that.
I think you've covered it pretty well. I think we've talked about the issues that people care about the most, and it's money in their pockets. That's the focus right now, and should be.
Well, we thank you for your time.
Yes.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And if anyone would like more information, they can visit com, or they can call me directly at 560-0183.
That's good getting your number out.
Yep.
That's
Good.
impressive.
Yeah, as a realtor, everyone has that
Oh.
anyway.
Good luck with the rest.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you,
very
appreciate it.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks.